I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is the moment of silence. As we do our moment of silence, I hope and I ask that you please pray for those in the southern states. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason.
Present.
Trustee Reinders.
Present.
Trustee McNaughton. Trustee Consolino.
Present.
Trustee Fialco.
Present.
Trustee Stylen.
Present.
Mayor Knightsky-Troicki.
Present. Next, we have our community recognition. We're going to have Trustee Consolino lead us in the Big Tree Awards. And Taylor's going to assist her today.
Pretty heavy.
Welcome to the awards night for the Village of Homer Glen Big Tree Champion Contest in honor of October. We are pleased that we will be adding 5 new tree species to our Big Tree Champion list, as well as 1 winner that replaces a previous Big Tree Champion. This is an important award that recognizes the need to appreciate and protect the natural environment within the Village of Homer Glen. Champion trees are individual trees which are exceptional examples of their species because of their size, their age, or rarity. The Village of Homer Glen was founded and incorporated in large part due to the desires of its citizens to preserve the unique and diverse components of the natural environment within the village and take steps to assist in further protection and beautification of that environment. Through the efforts of the Environment Committee, the village created the Big Tree Champion Contest. This award recognizes citizens that have helped to identify and preserve the biggest of our mature trees in the village. We have 6 winning trees among the 4 recipients in this year's Big Tree Champion Contest. During the award presentation, can't say that right, we will present award certificates to the recipients. Pictures will be taken as the certificates are presented, and the photos will be available for viewing on the Village of Homer Glen website. The first award goes to Barry Quain. Are you here today? Okay, we've identified an American linden tree with a circumference measurement of 74 inches. Next is Kurt Spooner. They have identified a crabapple tree with a circumference measurement of 35 inches, a red maple tree with a circumference of 65 inches, and a sweet gum tree with a circumference of 57 inches. So, Mr. Spooner, are you here? Next is Naila Halim, who is identified as an eastern cottonwood tree with a circumference of 138 inches. Naila, are you here? Come on up, hon. Woo. And last but not least is Mr. Parnell O'Brien, who's got a lot of trees on his property. They have identified a slippery elm tree with a circumference of 69 inches. Hi, Parnell. Thank you all for attending this evening and showing your support for this important award event. Mayor Trikey and village trustees, thank you for your support. I'd also like to give a big special thank you to our person that goes out from our committee who measures every year, which is Mr. Joe Therese. And a special thank you to our environment committee members for organizing and coordinating this contest. Thank you.
Okay, next is amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor, I would like to move K6 to 2A, L2A.
Is there any more amendments?
So we're just
Wait a minute.
removing that from consent and making it the last item.
No, it's to 2A, legislative L2A.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I thought you said 8.
No, 2A.
Is there any other amendments, or do you guys want to vote on this one first?
I don't have any.
Trustee Consolino, did you have something?
No, that was all I was going to move.
Okay. Madam, is there a second to the amendment to the agenda? Is there a
I'll second.
Trustee Sen. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Steilen.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Actually, it's just for us, it doesn't require a second for taking it out of the consent agenda. Just one person.
Thanks. Motion carries. Now, is there approval for the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee
I'll
Fialko.
second.
As amended.
Trustee Fialko, Trustee Consolino, any more discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Steilen.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Okay, public comment? Thank you. Wayne Felgenhauser. Is there a green light?
There
You're
is
good.
now.
You can raise the mic. There you go.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Trustees, thank you for putting up, approving the signs to go on the walkways, no motorized vehicles. I've been using those trails for the last few years. And every time I would talk to somebody and politely tell them they're not supposed to be riding on there, they say that they didn't know. So I wanted to thank you for that. But just as a side note, last week I used Culver Park's trailhead going east, and I only walked for about a half hour, maybe 45 minutes at the max. Those 2 times, I had 4 motorized vehicles pass me. I mentioned to one of them that, hey, didn't you see the sign? No. And I know that they can be fined and the vehicle taken away, and I point that out to them. But I try and tell them in a nice way, so I don't get them all upset. And personally, if they're riding on the grass, I have no problem with that. But I have an issue with people coming up behind me and not making any noise at all. And that automatically puts me in a defense. So I don't want to get hurt. I don't want anybody else to get hurt. So, but in any event, the whole reason I'm here is to thank you for putting those signs up, because I've been politicking for those things for the last 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Should I turn this off?
Yes, please. Thank you. You're the only speaker tonight. Okay, moving on to reports and communication from the President and other officers. Village Manager Joe Baber.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I'd like to welcome our new Planning and Zoning Director, Chris Grubin, sitting to my right here, to our team. Chris has jumped right in, and he is working diligently on a few of our current projects here at the village. Welcome, Chris. Check our website. We do have a number of things on there regarding hurricane relief information. We're going to have a gentleman who's going to have a truck out here tomorrow collecting some items, as well as other resources. Seems like cash is the big thing that we're getting from Will County as a need for relief for these people who are going through just devastation down where they live. I'm reporting on the Behavioral Health and Addiction Recovery Committee as the new chairperson for that. October 10th, actually tomorrow, is World Mental Health Day. The overall objective of World Mental Health Day is to raise awareness of mental health issues around the world and to mobilize efforts in the support of mental health. The day provides an opportunity for all stakeholders working on mental health issues to talk about their work and what more needs to be done to make mental health a reality for people worldwide. Since 1990, Americans have celebrated the first full week of October as Mental Health Awareness Week, and after the National Alliance of Mental Health lobbied Congress to create this critical awareness event. This year, Mental Health Awareness Week is October 6th through the 12th, and Mental Health Day is tomorrow. Thank you. Also, on October 20th, there's a Dash for Den event, a fundraiser in memory of Dennis Raber for the center in Palos Park. Dennis, Homer Glen resident, lost his opioid battle in 2018. Information regarding this fundraiser are on the table, or they can contact me directly for more information. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Moving on to Village Trustees. Trustee Mason?
Just a couple announcements. This month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It is an international health campaign that is held every October. Breast Cancer Awareness Month can mean different things to different people. It is a chance to show their support for more than 2 million women around the world who are diagnosed with the disease each year. It could mean 31 days in the fall of pink ribbon reminders of the disease that forever changes people. For others, it's the understanding, the goals behind the campaign, and the emotions felt by the many different people living with the disease. You may help to decide, the help with the disease and may help decide how you want to help commemorate or help during this month. The month aims to promote screening and prevention of the disease, which affects 2.3 million women worldwide, known best for its pink color theme. The month features a number of campaigns and programs conducted by groups ranging from breast cancer advocacy organizations to local community organizations to major retailers, aimed at supporting people diagnosed with breast cancer, educating the people about the risk factors, and encouraging women to go for regular breast cancer screenings. Excuse me. October is also known as Down Syndrome Awareness Month, a time dedicated to raising awareness about and celebrating the achievements of individuals with Down syndrome. This is a month-long observation that plays a crucial role in promoting and understanding inclusion and support the Down syndrome community. Down syndrome is a genetic condition caused by the presence of an extra chromosome, number 21. This is a genetic material that affects a person's physical characteristics and development abilities. While individuals with Down syndrome may share some common traits, each and every person is very unique with their own strengths, challenges, and abilities. National Down Syndrome Awareness Month was first designated in 1981 and has been recognized in October ever since. The month serves as an opportunity to educate the public about Down syndrome, which is the most common chromosomal condition diagnosed in the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. Trustee Mason? Trustee Fielko?
Yes, thank you, President Trike. With A&F, I just want to let everybody know we're a little down in certain sectors with bringing money into the village. Again, tax time comes around for us in December. We're keeping an eye on that. We did just purchase the Boo Farm. That was $4 million. And Joe, I did ask for John Sawyers to be here at this meeting if we could for a midpoint review on our budget. Is he still out of town?
He had a family emergency.
Okay, all right. So hopefully we can schedule that at our next meeting where we give the midpoint review on our fiscal year budget. And that would be it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Steilen?
Yes, just to remind people that the fishing derby is this Saturday. If you haven't registered and you want to come out and watch the kids fish, last time some of them caught, the winner was 22 fish in 1 hour, so it's a pretty fast-paced, fun event. And then at the end of the month on Saturday the 26th is Trunk or Treat, and if you want to register your car and hand out some candy to the kiddies, please check our website out. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Consolino?
Last week, the Environment Committee hosted a BP pipeline workshop on Tuesday the 3rd. Our village engineer, Mr. Westcott, presented the workshop, answered resident and trustee questions and concerns. Unfortunately, residents and the trustees present were extremely disappointed. We had no representative from BP. They didn't come to the meeting, and they did not answer questions that were very specific to their knowledge. BP also did not answer any of the questions that were submitted to them a few weeks ago. As for now, I will permit our engineer and village manager to give an update on the situation during old business. It's my understanding that BP has been notified by village staff that they cannot pursue any further clear cutting for the pipeline until further information is acquired and negotiating takes place. Once we inquire the information from BP that is responsive to the questions that we submitted to them, all of the information gathered regarding the BP pipeline right-of-way will be placed on the village's website. The Environment Committee agreed at the end of the meeting to review the village's current tree ordinance and add verbiage that would help add more tree conservation and help protect our community's heritage trees. Some of these trees have an approximate age of up to 300 years. At a committee level, we felt by hosting the workshop and working on more conservation efforts with our code, these are things that we can do to help advocate on behalf of the residents who are upset about trees being cleared on their property by BP and other utility companies. Once the Environment Committee has agreed upon amendments to the ordinance, we will submit them to the village board for further discussion and action. As we celebrate Oak Awareness Month, October, and our proclamation, the Environment Committee is hosting a Lands Day community cleanup event on Saturday, October 19th. This will be from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. If anyone is interested, please come join us at Culver's Park, where we will have grabbers, gloves, and garbage bags for anyone who would like to volunteer a few hours and help us clean up along the Culver Park area and our beloved Heroes Trail. This is a great way to express your nature and harmony spirit and encourage our neighborhood kids to get in those much-needed community service hours for school. Lastly, since there seems to be a lot of questions about village board member attendance at meetings lately, I wanted to put out public notice that I will be in attendance at the next board meeting on the 23rd, but I will need to leave early for an event for my daughter. I would also like to acknowledge and wish everyone a very happy Columbus Day next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Castellino. And last but not least, Trustee Reinders.
Thank you, Mayor. Last Friday, the Parks and Recs Committee, we had a workshop with the Lakota Group. We actually saw the final revisions to the master plan of Heritage Park. At our next board meeting, the committee will be making some recommendations to the board, and they will be presenting a workshop to the board for everybody to see the final revisions. One other thing I wanted to bring up too is I was hearing a lot of chatter from social media about Yangus Park. I know that we really tried to do something really good by putting all those grindings down there, but unfortunately they put way too many grindings, and now we're in the process of actually having to level that. But we're also, there was a method to our madness, is basically there was a floodplain there, and we were trying to really prevent that, but in preventing that, they actually put way too much. So Engineer Westcott is going to be working with our staff and maybe our D3 Construction to see if they can rectify all of that. So that's basically it.
Thank you. Village Clerk?
No report.
Village Attorney?
Thank you, Madam President. Briefly, just want to report that the village successfully closed on the Kathy Boo farm parcels closed last week. So the Village of Homer Glen is now entitled to that farm. With great pleasure from the Board of Trustees, it's going to be the plan of the village to have that parcel, those parcels of property, to host a future, not only an environmental park, but also a future wastewater treatment plant. That's in the works. Brett Westcott, the village engineer, is working diligently on that, but that's the village trustees here, that's what the plan was, that was what the revision was, and they gave our office the direction to close on the property last week, and that's done. So that's been completed. And so the future is now in your hands. You can now chart your own path and your own future. Secondly, in regards to 143rd Street, the village is hosting a informational workshop on October 15th at between 7 and 9 p.m. at the Young School. Myself and my colleague, Mr. Michael Carroll, will be discussing providing information to residents. Certainly, we're not providing legal advice to anybody at that point, but we're going to be talking about the steps that a sovereign, a local unit of government, in this case, whether it be the village or in this case, Will County, the steps that the sovereign needs to take in order to take possession of someone's property by way of the Illinois Eminent Domain Act. So we're going to be providing information to folks at that time, and also providing information about a potential future public use for areas within that corridor of 143rd Street.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Is that what I said, Madam Mayor?
7 to 9.
7 to 9, so it's 7 to 9. Lastly, there's been some questions in regards to the status of the ICC and the Illinois American Water rate hike increase. As my colleague, Mr. Carroll, reported, I believe, a couple of meetings ago, the expert portion of that case is closed. The ICC, per their docket, is planning on issuing a ruling on the matter sometime in mid-December. The stay that was put in effect by the ICC is in effect through that ruling. So we anticipate receiving a ruling sometime in mid-December, and that stay of all the rate increases will be in effect at least until that period of time. Once the ruling comes down, we'll then be able to provide an updated report to everyone, to the trustees here in executive session, and then with their permission to all of you on what, if any, next steps will be, depending upon the ruling by the ICC. And Madam Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Public safety officials? Nothing? Okay, that leaves me. Just a couple of things. The Ability Awareness is putting on a Christmas card contest. We're just putting it out there because every year the mayor signs Christmas cards, and it's the typical same old card. I thought it'd be fun for a resident to design, any age resident can design a Christmas card, basically about inclusion for special needs, veterans, and so on. So we're just, the rules are going to be put out soon. I think they're going out tomorrow. So look for that contest. I wanted to welcome back Trustee Reinders. She's had a little bit of a health battle, but she's back and healthy, and happy to have you back.
Thank you.
A special thank you to Brett Westcott. He's been under fire a lot lately, so I just really wanted to say thank you. You're really taking on a lot of tasks, so I really appreciate all of your hard work and your late nights here. Another thing, I'm wearing a sweatshirt tonight, my first time I'm ever wearing a sweatshirt to a board meeting. It's in honor of the Fire Buddies. I was approached a couple weeks ago by the Northwest Fire and Homer Township Fire. What they do is they have this project is called Project Fire Buddies, and what they do is the firefighters provide support and create relationships with children with critical illnesses, especially cancer. We have, believe it or not, we have quite a few young adults and children with cancer in our town. We have one resident who, her name is Addie. She has a page called Warrior Addie. She is terminally ill, and her mom had reached out to me and said, what she really wants to do is be mayor for the day. So, with the board's approval, I would like to take Addie, full expenses paid by me, but take her to, show her what mayors do. Go to Starbucks, right, in the morning. We, do some fun things. And then she did ask if she could attend a board meeting and just do roll call. So with the board's approval, I'd really like to fulfill this wish for Addie.
Aye.
Hi. Yeah.
Thank you. But that's pretty much it. But if you guys can join the Fire Buddies Project Fire Buddies, it's where they raise money and they do charity work. They really need a lot of help and support. Homer Township and Homer Glen, Northwest Fire. They're really looking for a lot of support to help these kids in our town. There's quite a few of them, and they're looking to make them an awesome Christmas this year. So check out their page, and let's work together on doing some good things for these kids. Okay. Trustee Reinders, thank you for reminding me. We're also having a Veterans Day event held at Konos Farm, November 3rd from 12 to 3. All the veterans will be receiving an invitation. Obviously, it's free food, free music, free drinks, non-alcoholic free drinks, and a good time. So, and all the funds that we're raising, I think so far we've raised roughly $2,500, but all funds raised will go towards the Veterans Day boxes that we have for this year. And Trustee Reinders, yes, Madam Trustee.
You know what, I just wanted to remind everybody, we are going to be hosting at Taza a fundraiser for Shady Oaks on November 21st. And that will be like a pasta, meatball, salad dinner. I don't know what the price is yet. We just are working out the details today. But if anybody can mark your calendar, November 21st at Taza. And I think it'll be probably right around 5:30, 6 o'clock until like 8:30. But it's for a good cause.
We all love Shady Oaks.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to consent agenda. 1, consider for approval the accounts payable for the period of September 27, 2024 through October 10, 2024 in the amount of $767,907.35. Consider for approval the quote from Bankston Nursery for the installation of the parkway trees for 2024 fall tree installation program in the amount of $24,940. Consider for approval a reimbursement grant award under the Commercial Building Improvement Grant Program to SK Creameries, Homer Glen LLC, doing business as Creamery, for eligible improvements of 15112 South Bell in the amount of $5,000. Consider for the approval of the quote received by K Brothers Fence of Mokina to install a new gate opener on the south gate of Public Works facility in the amount of $10,495. And 5, consider for approval an ordinance authorizing the sale of surplus park property, which includes 2003 Sterling Actura A6500 dump truck, a 2007 Ford Taurus, and a 2004 John Deere tractor with attached Tiger boom mower. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee
second.
Mason and Trustee Reinders. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to legislation and action items. Number 1, consider approval of proclamation declaring October as Oaktober, Oak Awareness Month in the Village of Homer Glen. Is there a motion?
I'll make that
moved.
motion.
Second.
Trustee Reinders and Trustee Consolino, any discussion? Trustee Consolino, would you be so kind to read the proclamation?
Designation of October as Oaktober, Oak Awareness Month in the Village of Homer Glen. Whereas oak ecosystems have been a significant part of the Illinois landscape for more than 5,000 years and are now in a state of decline across the entire state of Illinois. And whereas the state tree of Illinois is white oak. And whereas Illinois forest, woodland, and savanna communities have been greatly reduced statewide, and the remaining oak ecosystems are declining in health due to the decline of oak dominance. And whereas these threats and declines are due to the lack of public awareness, impacts of invasive species, poor management practices, and reduced resources. And whereas oak ecosystems in Illinois provide needed food and support for native insects and wildlife, oak trees and their companion species contribute to important native biological diversity. And whereas research has shown that oak trees and forests improve our air and water quality, human health, social and economic well-being, provide jobs and revenue, and improve the overall quality of life for all citizens across all neighborhoods and community boundaries. And whereas the Illinois statewide forest resource assessment and strategy identifies the loss of oak ecosystems as a critical issue for the health of forest resources in Illinois, and acknowledges the significant decline of oak dominance, the predominant forest type in Illinois, the change in forest landscapes, the decrease in forest health, and a significant need to teach the mechanics of oak regeneration, protect oak woodlands, and preserve our Illinois natural heritage. And whereas the Illinois Wildlife Action Plan identifies the quality of wooded habitats in Illinois as major concern and the need to understand and manage oak decline in the state. And whereas awareness of the threats and impacts to oak ecosystems is an important first step towards behavioral change and an opportunity to engage citizens to protect and improve the health and services of our oak ecosystems and natural resources overall. And whereas Oak Awareness Month is an opportunity for government to join forces with business, industry, conservation groups, recreational groups, community organizations, and citizens to take action to support our native oak ecosystem. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Mayor and the Board of Trustees of the Village of Homer Glen that October 2024 is recognized as Oaktober, Oak Awareness Month in the Village of Homer Glen, Will County, Illinois, dated this 9th day of October 2024. Thank you.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to item 2, consider for approval an ordinance granting a variance to permit a mix of stone and engineered wood siding materials on the first floor of the dwelling in lieu of exterior construction standards requiring the stone or brick material covered 100% of the aggregate total area of all the first floor or story exterior walls, exclusive of doors, windows, and associated trim. 75-67A, applicability and scope, type of building or structure of Chapter 75 buildings of the Code of the Village of Homer Glen for certain real property located in the R2 Single Family Residential District at 18222 South Spring Meadows Drive, Mokina, Illinois. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion. LA.
2A, so that's next.
2A. 2A.
Sorry, the motion, who made
I
it
made
first?
that first.
Trustee Fialko and Trustee Reinders. Trustee Fialko?
I just want to make sure, we've done this before, there are pictures there. I just want to make sure that there were no complaints that came in on this. And I know DeBoer Woods, we had that issue last week where there was no motion on it. But with this case, I just want to make sure there haven't been any complaints with that like we had last week. So,
We have received none.
okay. That would be it for me. Thank you.
Trustee Reinders?
I agree with Trustee Bielko. We have done this several times before, and the products that they're using are good products. I think the difference between this and DeBoer Woods is DeBoer Woods has an HOA, and, I'm sorry, DeBoer Woods has an HOA, and I'm not sure, I didn't read anything in here that there was an HOA that had any rules or regulations, so I'm not opposed to it.
Is there any more discussion?
I would just like to concur with both Trustee Reinders and Trustee Fialko. At least they came in front of us and asked. We have done this in the past. There is no HOA. I think it looks nice. It looks like it's a mixed area between stone and brick. The other houses in the area are brick in the front and siding on the side, so I don't see why not.
Mayor, could you ask Mr. Baber if this went before Planning Commission at all? Because I don't see anything in the packet.
I don't believe it did.
It didn't have to?
Typically, this process does not go through Planning Commission.
No, I was okay with the materials. They look nice.
Trustee Stylen, you got anything?
No, I just think that in the future, we should probably talk about this kind of design. And so, because this doesn't go before the Plan Commission and the neighbors don't get notified that this is being built. But I think it'll fit in fine with the neighborhood.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to case 6, which is now L2A.
Yep.
Consider for approval a motion to approve updating the current village social media policy standing operating procedure number 13 to define the village's social media sites as not a public forum and to restrict all comments. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Consolino, is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Reinders, Trustee Consolino?
Okay, I had a lot.
That's what I thought.
Bear with me a sec.
There was not. It was a
get a
motion to
chance to.
move out of.
Out of the consent agenda and into the other action items.
Trustee Consolino has the floor for the moment. You
Yeah,
can
I'm
table
sorry.
it when you're ready.
No, so when I was going through this, it's a little bit confusing because there's a comparison ordinance from Lamont in here, but then it kind of, sorry, Okay, so motion for consideration. Is there a motion to approve updating the current village social media policy, SOP 13, to define the village's social media sites as not a public forum and to restrict all comments? And I had also submitted questions to the lawyer. But it says further down, okay, committee voted unanimously 4-0 in favor of restricting comments on the village's social media platforms, making this not a public forum. But then it says Coordinator Blank thinks it's in the best interest of the village to update SOP 13 to include language that allows the village to be either. So then either would be a limited public forum or not a public forum. So then, my concerns were, and this is what I addressed to the village manager and to the attorneys, when I did my research, it says government agencies can delete social media posts, but there are restrictions. Censoring viewpoints. We cannot delete comments or block users based on the viewpoint. This would be unconstitutional. It's called unconstitutional viewpoint discrimination. So does our attorney have a legal analysis to support the amendments tonight? It's also my understanding that the village has had previous complaints about individuals being deleted and blocked from our municipal page because of opposing views. So I'm concerned about this opening us up to litigation. I also think that censorship of a government municipal page is dangerous, and I don't want to leave the village open to liability on this. But I do support a limited public forum, but I do not support one person's judgment on who can or cannot comment. So because the wording on this is confusing, and I know this is, are we looking to do both, or are we just looking to not have comments at all?
So I think, if I may, I think that there was some confusion on this in itself. So I believe before I walked in today, I heard the rumblings of this may have been tabled for further review, and there might have been some information that was put in that shouldn't have been. There was like a different, something got moved together which shouldn't have been. So that's from what I understand. To be honest with you, I deal with social media on the daily, so I mean, it's up to you guys. From what I understood, some of you wanted to table this.
Well, I'd like to amend my motion
Okay.
to table it.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Table? Okay, so
I'll
now
second the
just,
motion.
is there any more discussion on,
Well, I want to make sure that, I'm sure Mike or legal counsel will get involved in this a little bit to give us advice as far as freedom of speech.
100%.
Okay.
100%, Trustee Fialko. And it's how this reads by way of the agenda item and everything else. It appears to me that something was merged here, which should not be in this packet for consideration because it's extremely confusing, and I think it's sending the wrong message to the residents.
Agreed.
So it's my recommendation that this matter get tabled, and what I'll do is our office will work with Mr. Baber and come up with an ordinance that I think will be much more straightforward for your consideration.
Thank you. That's it for me.
all right, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll on the tabling?
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries to table. Moving on to item 3. Consider for approval a temporary business retention sign for Grove Valley Center, 15741 to 15761 South Bell Road from Integrity Sign in the amounts of $6,110.
I'll make that, I'm sorry.
It is understood that the final pricing would be subject to engineering requirements to meet village design criteria for wind load, snow load, and frost depth as specified in the RFQ.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Reinders, Trustee Fialko, Trustee Reinders?
This was something that we discussed in A&F, and there was quite a lengthy discussion on it. And, Joe had given us some information that all the signs on 159th Street, the temporary signs, that the village did pay for those. So there was some question here because the sign owner had already collected money for the permanent sign for the future. But the problem is that the construction's not done yet, and there's a lot of movement going on over there in that area, and it's very confusing to a lot of the residents and to the people that frequent that plaza there on how to get in there. They don't know if they're supposed to turn in by Bell 7, if they're supposed to turn in by the school, because there's constant construction there. So, and one of the points that I made was that I do know for sure that that hair salon that's there has a much older clientele. And that clientele, I have heard from some of the people that I know there, that they're having a very difficult time. So I believe that this is something that should be done and that we should allow them to put the temporary sign there.
Trustee Fielko?
Yes, I would agree that that sign would help. The only thing is, we were told it was only going to be there for about 6 months. Will County gave the strip mall owner, not the businesses, the money towards the new sign for
Permanent sign.
impeding on the business sign and where it's being widened. So Will County gave them some money. I don't know how much money they were given, but they were given money. And we had asked that owner be asked if he would be willing to pay half of it, and he said no. On 159th Street, signage was paid for when the state of Illinois widened 159th Street, but I know on 143rd Street, we had a business there at that time, and no signage was put up over there, although very few signs, I think, were affected. But we still had the problem with the road being widened at that time and minimal traffic going through there. With that said, we have a facade program that is a grant facade program that includes many different things. And I threw out the idea that possibly we could use some of that money towards that. But that's 9 businesses, I'm being told, are in that strip mall, but the strip mall is owned by one owner. So there's a few things. Our limit for one person would be only $5,000 being the strip mall owner. But now if we break it down, I had a very good conversation with Janie Patch today, and she has an explanation to kind of work around this. And basically, the way I understand it, we can take and maybe take this money and pay for this now, but the strip mall owner who got money already, and now we'd be paying for this, we could say that he would not be able to participate in the facade program to get the $5,000 because we are fronting the money at this point for the $6,000. And that made a lot of sense to me. That's a little easier to palate. That because he's not giving up any money for signage till the new sign goes in. I get all that. This is only for 6 months. Again, we are investing in a lot of things with the village right now, and wherever we can kind of watch our dollars a little bit or balance numbers so it works out to the benefit of the village and the taxpayers who we are the fiduciaries for, I think this would be a better thing. So if somewhere in our conversation, if we could let Janie explain her view on it. She was the one that presented it to me today, but I think she's got a great explanation for it.
Sure, I'll go to all the trustees first and then Janie. Trustee Consolino, do you have anything?
I kind of agree with what Trustee Fialko just said. I'd also like to hear what Janie Patch has to say.
Trustee Mason?
Yes, we talked about it, and as Trustee Fialko just put out there, everything that he stated, we discussed. The difference is though the permanent sign is what the landlord was giving the money for. And you have 9 different businesses in there that it is not their fault that the road is being widening. When we did 159th Street, or when it was being done, we put out the money for the signage for places all up and down 159th Street. And I don't think it's fair, and as Trustee Reinders had stated, you get a little confused when you get over in that corner. Am I going into the school? Am I going into Tuffy's Tires? Am I going? And you cannot blame the business. Now, I do agree that later on, if some other type of funding was happening for the facade or whatever the case may be, we can look at it at that time. But this owner, the money that he was given was for a permanent sign, not a temporary sign, and not to assist our residents to get in there.
Trustee Stylen?
Yes, it is unfortunate that this is a problem that's caused by a government project. And we don't, even though they say it's going to be 6 months, we've observed Bell Road taking a lot longer than they've ever said it would take. So I'd like to help the businesses out by providing this sign for them. I think it'll be good for us, and it'll be good for the businesses.
Janie, would you like to step in and have any words?
Sure. You wanted to say that this is really a business retention initiative that is being proposed by staff, and it was also recommended by the Economic Development Committee. And I think Trustee Fialko, am I on? Okay, is that better? Okay. Did you hear what I said already? Did you all hear that well enough? Okay. I tend to have a little bit of a loud voice. So I think Trustee Fialko really pretty much explained it, but my thought was we actually have this set up in the supplement sheet with a general fund admin signage budget line item being able to fund this program for that type of signage. I checked it out with Director Sawyers, and he felt that was the best place to have this project funded from if it was approved. And with the grant program, actually, we have a temporary sign project would not be eligible, plus we have a $5,000 maximum grant award limit to that. But it seems fair that if the village, if it pleases the board to participate in this project, that this motion could be conditioned to restrict the future permanent plaza sign from eligibility under the Commercial Building Improvement Grant Program. And so that could be simply added if the board, if it pleases the board, and do an amendment to the motion, and you could pass it that way. And I think that that's fair because the property owner has been compensated, again, as Trustee Mason pointed out, that is for the permanent sign, right. And he just is very concerned about a new sign being damaged if it's installed at this point so close to construction. And we actually have evidence that his access curb was damaged on his private property. This is after the right-of-way line was moved. And we have a claim in right now so that the contractors will fix that as part of this project. And that's right in the location of where these signs would go. So I think it kind of makes sense that he does wait. And my intention here was really to think about the businesses.
I'd like to make a motion to amend based on the conversation we just had.
Okay, that's what I was going to do.
Well, you can second it.
Go ahead, whoever wants to make a motion to amend. Yep. But to amend it to what?
I would like to amend it to the conditions that Janie Patch just said. Basically, we'll give this money for the temporary sign, but in the future, for any facade money that would be going towards signage would not apply at that time.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, Trustee Reinders. Is there any more discussion on the amendment? Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the amendment.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
All right.
Any more discussion on the motion as amended? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye?
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 4, consider for approval the payment of the Village of Homer Glen's August legal bills from Peterson, Johnson, and Murray in the amount of $28,101.50.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Mason.
I'll second.
Trustee Consolino. Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am. I went through it pretty thoroughly. We voted on it at A&F to go ahead and pass it. There's been, I don't know how you guys do it. The stuff that you throw at them between trustees calling them, between BP, between 143rd, between, it goes on and on and on. The ICC, the CUB, the water. So I understand why the bills get the way they do. But again, we need to pay our bills timely.
Thank you. Trustee Consolino.
No.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to say that.
Turn your microphone on.
I'm sorry.
I know it's been a while.
Yeah, I know. Got to get back in the groove here. Contrary to a lot of chatter that we hear in this board, that nothing is being done in this village, I would just like to say that there's a lot going on in this village, a lot. And it requires a lot of legal representation and advice. So yes, I am in favor of this bill. I looked it over and I could see all the projects that we're working on through this bill.
Thank you. Trustee Fialko?
Yes, just so for the public, we have already heard it, but Joe, you've looked through the bill and everything looks in good shape, correct?
I have reviewed the entire invoice from the legal, and I just want to thank them for the process they put in place for breaking down each individual topic. It makes it a lot easier for me to go through this and understand what hourly rate is being applied to each project, and I appreciate that. Makes my job a lot easier. Thank you.
That's it for me.
Easy for me too.
Thank
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason,
Aye.
Trustee Consolino,
No.
Trustee Fialko,
Aye.
Trustee Reinders,
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 5, consider for approval an ordinance amending Article, I don't know my Roman numerals, what is that, 5 or 6?
6.
Chapter 83, I'm not going to lie. Licensing and regulating video gaming within the Village of Homer Glen. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Consolino?
I'll second.
Trustee Mason? Trustee Consolino?
Okay. All right. So I have a lot of questions and concerns, again, with some of these amendments tonight. Get the right pages. Okay. I have a question, has legal reviewed what I've heard from some of our business on? They're stating that this is an overreach. By overreach, I mean page 6, section B. Audit and reporting.
This is all I
Not-
have.
Notwithstanding any other provisions of this article, all village video gaming premises license holders are required within 21 days of receiving a request for records from the village president or village manager to produce requested books and records relating to the ownership and/or control of the village video gaming premises license holder. Failure to respond to such a request in a timely manner and/or failure to produce the requested information to the village shall be a violation of this article subject to the penalty provisions set forth in 8355 below. Okay, so I was getting a lot of feedback on that one. And then if this is, so the other thing that I was told is that it's not required, this kind of auditing and reporting is not required by the Illinois Gaming Commission, the Illinois Department of Revenue, or the IRS. So if this is true, why are we doing this? I can understand wanting to restrict gaming. However, it is their right to have gaming. And I've expressed how I feel about, restaurants in abundance with gaming on here. It is their right regardless. Owners have expressed that they feel that this will leave them vulnerable to the possibility of being extorted. Those were the exact words that were stated to me. I thoroughly support small businesses in Homer Glen. The village reaps the benefit of the tax revenue from these businesses and their gaming machines, especially when the village is no longer producing the expected revenue that we once did. So, and this is all going on while we have had a ton of superfluous spending over the past year and a half. I also do not agree with yet another ordinance where we are giving up our corporate authorities. We've done this about 5 or 6 times now. And that is in regards to giving up the corporate authority to the mayor on page 5, D2. Everybody keeps saying that this is not a strong form of government, but every time we vote to give up our corporate authority, that's exactly what we're making this. So I do not support these amendments. I would like to either table this or remove and strike the sections that I just discussed.
Thank you, Trustee Consolino. I lost my sheet of who made the second.
If you want to take, you should make the motion.
Trustee Mason, you made the second.
Yeah, I think we do need to have auditing and reporting. I want people to be financially responsible. I know that certain restaurants have to sell 60% of their product to be food. So we need to be able to look at those books, and we need to, and how often does it happen? But we do need to be able to look at them. We do need to be able to decipher whether they're selling as much food and not all gaming or whatever the case may be. Also, as far as corporate authority goes, I think it should align with the liquor ordinances and the liquor licensing. So am in opposition of Trustee Consolino.
Any more discussion? Trustee Fialko?
I do, unless you want. This is, yeah, we went through this. We had this put to the side for quite a few months while we made our amendments to it, and now it's back on the table. I think this is intrusive to a business. I think if we want an audit done, it should be done through the state. What it doesn't say here is how often somebody would be audited, how the selection for the person to be audited would be handled, and it leaves too many open gaps to question. Not by me, but the business that would be being audited. And then the audit itself, that then subjects us to legal things that could end up happening also. So I don't think that this is the right thing. We're supposed to be supporting businesses, not looking for things to, and I guess if it had the verbiage in there, or it was wordsmithed in a way where it said once a year everybody would be audited, or once a year, certain percentages, and you're somehow, but how that selection is going to be made is not in here. I'm not sure that Trustee Castellino said she read a little bit more about it, I guess, than I did. I didn't find anything in the state provision that allows the village to do that. I think that's their authority. Probably because it could be abused if this is enacted the way it's written. I don't like the way it's written at all. To generate 60% of its revenue from food, we know that they agreed to that in the beginning. So that's already in our ordinance when they signed up. But as far as the auditing part of it, I really do think that would subject us to legal legalities that we don't want to come across and spend money on. That doesn't say if somebody would be grandfathered under the old rules, and this is only for new people. I think this needs to be looked at, and I think the 2 business days that the businesses that have gaming in Homer Glen should have been given a lot more time, or at least be given a notice that this change was going to be in here, so they could be up here and talking about how they feel about this. It impacts too many people that pay too much of the taxes for this just to be thrown out there with a 2-day warning. I am completely against this at this time. I am for tabling this. Matter of fact, I would like to make the motion to table this until we get further review on this, and that we can let the businesses know that this is on the agenda, that have gaming, and they can attend the meeting. So I'm making the motion to table this.
I'll second.
Let's call a motion, or let's call a roll call for tabling.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
No.
Trustee Reinders?
No.
Trustee Stylen?
No.
So the motion to table fails. So we're
Okay.
still in discussion. Trustee Fialko, were you done?
Well, if we can't make the motion to table, I would definitely like to make an amendment to this under 2 to make it remain as the corporate authorities. I would like it to remain with the, that means this whole board. It includes the mayor or the president. It includes all of us. Having one person control all, it doesn't matter who was the mayor, it doesn't matter to me. One person having all that authority, the board should know what's going on in this village when it comes to gaming, and this is the only way that secures that. That's why corporate authorities was included in the beginning. I don't see why we can't all, just like we're working on it now, it doesn't sound like we're all in agreement, but the corporate authorities would be able to review anything like this that comes by. I don't think taking that away from the trustees is a very good thing to do.
Trustee Fialko, can I just interject, because I think there's some confusion.
Sure.
So, first and foremost, it was the village president before. This board changed it to corporate authorities, which was fine. Like, just so everybody knows, I'm not beefing about it. The reason it's not for new businesses, it's for existing businesses that are changing like ownership. And I was gonna have Gina, if you don't mind, Gina, step in and discuss this a little bit, because I think this is where the confusion comes in, and I see this conversation's getting a little heated. So
Well,
I just want
wasn't
Gina.
really done
I know,
either.
but I want to take one amendment at a time and
Yeah.
kind of just break it down, so we're not going motion this, motion that. I just want to break it down for explanation first.
But could you ask her in her conversation,
Yeah.
was it always the mayor?
Sure.
It wasn't the mayor before. It was always the corporate authorities. It
I
got
thought
changed
maybe
and
it was
then we changed
manager.
it back and it went back. It's been going back and
Yeah,
forth 2 or
yeah.
3
Well,
times.
we can ask that
But
for
its
sure.
origination, it was the, matter of fact, I think it was the
I think it was the
village
manager, yeah.
It was the village manager.
I think it was just to mirror the liquor, and that's to make things easier, because if a
Yeah.
business does change, then they have to
I
go to
understand.
the mayor for one, and they have to go to the corporate authorities for another, and it just seems a lot of confusion. I think the purpose of this was just to mirror it, to make it simplified for the business owner. But I just want Gina to explain so everybody understands before we go any further. Is that okay with the board?
And then it'll come back to
And
me.
it will come back to you, Trustee
Thank you.
Fialko.
Okay, so,
Gina, if you could speak loud on that microphone, because I think that one's a little, or Joe, would you mind sharing yours?
yeah. Okay, so if you look at page 5, and I think this is where the confusion is coming in, but if you look at page 5 and you look at D, exceptions, so under that, if in the event of a sale, transfer, or assignment or more than 10% of the shares, it's issued or looked at by the village president. And then if you look at 2, where they're just changing their location or their DBA name, then that's by the corporate authorities. So to make it flow and make sense, I think if 1 is village president, then 2 should also be by the village president. And so you would have them coming to the board. So let's say Tavern in the Glen wanted to just change their DBA. They're doing business as to, I don't know,
The circus.
yeah.
Just some name.
They would have to come to the board for approval per this.
Which really is not business friendly if they're just changing doing business as. And there's never been a time I haven't been upfront with you guys of what's happening. And it's not even me either. They come to Gina, and Gina always lets you guys know when something's happening too. So it's not a matter of not knowing. And plus, there's always, what's that called, attorney, where there's like, it just happened with Nikki's. Say if something was to be denied by me, they have the right to come to this board and get it overruled, which you guys did the last time, which is part of the process. And again, this is not something like, that I'm gonna, not a battle I wanna die on the hill for. This is just something to make it easier for the business who's gonna change just minor things. If a brand new business came in, absolutely this board, I prefer the board to have the say. I don't want that to fall on me. And I believe before Trustee Fialko had asked, in the past, I said the mayor, but I think it was the village manager.
It was the village manager.
But the mayor always did sign it because the mayor overrules the manager. So
Correct.
it's either or, but Joe Baber, would you like to take that responsibility back? I know, I'm just kidding. No, so it's just basically if there's a title change, ownership change of 10%, it's very small. This is not a matter of I rule the roost with who comes and goes. It's a minor change. So Trustee Fialko, I'm going to give it back to you.
Yes, I disagree with that. I'm sorry. I still think we should all be involved in that transaction and being on top of things. And then instead of petitioning the board, they can just come to the board. What I'm having a little bit of heartburn with is under restaurant, where it says it shall be required of this code that a restaurant continue to generate 60% of its revenue from food and beverage during the term of the video gaming license. This shall be subject to review under the audit provisions of this code. Now, when you go to the audit provisions of the code on page 6, B, audit reporting, notwithstanding any other provision in this article, all village video gaming premises license holders are required within 21 days of receiving a request for records from the village president or the village manager to produce requested books and recordings related to ownership and control of the video gaming premises license holder. A failure to respond to such a request in a timely manner and/or failure to produce the requested information to the village shall be a violation of this article, subject to the penalty provision set forth in 83-55, which is up to $1,000 fine per day. Yeah, that's heartburn. I don't believe we belong doing that.
Okay, Trustee Fialko, I actually, if I'm going to interject again, because Gina, can you please explain him? And I agree with you. I actually agree that this whole thing seems a bit much, but Gina, did we always have a policy where it was 60% food, correct?
Correct.
Yes. And didn't we always have a policy of where the Village of Homer Glen can audit at any time?
Correct.
Correct. So this is just putting it in the paper. This has always been a policy. This is more of like a cleanup, correct?
Correct.
So this isn't anything new. This is something that has always been existing.
Okay. Why is it in blue as a total addition? Blue means addition. I've never seen it work. I know in the agreement when they get their liquor license, they do, that's the state statute says 60/40.
No,
It isn't it is the state statute that says 60/40. That's for their enforcement. So if we're being told that this isn't brand new, it was, why is it in blue? Blue is an addition.
So it was just moved. So on page 4, where it's marked out in the red is where it had said originally, and that the applicant's establishment has generated at least 60% of its revenue from the sale of food or beverages.
Right.
So when it was discussed with the attorney, we crossed that out and we just made it where it was more direct.
I think it looks a little more authoritative and a little bit intrusive on a business to me. I see and I know what we had before when they come for their gaming license, they agree to the 60/40. I get that, but putting it to this measure doesn't say who we're going to do this to. It doesn't say we're going to do it to all businesses in a certain period of time. We're going to randomly select 3 a year. That's just wrong.
Would you like that added, or do you just want the whole thing taken out?
I think I would like the whole thing removed.
So you don't want the 60/40
I would like to leave it
at all?
just how it was. So I guess, but Trustee Mason has, can I come back to me?
No, well, can you wait, let's give you let's finish what I want to understand what you're trying to say so we can possibly make amendments. I hear that you don't like it, but what do you want to do about it?
I would like to take and remove, I'd like to amend by removing letter B on page 6 and just keeping line 3 as it was. Remove the red from line 3 and to remove letter B.
I will second that.
Wait. So Trustee Fialko, you want to remove section B on page 6?
Yes, auditing and reporting.
Trustee Fialko is the person I'm speaking to at the moment. And what else?
And line 3 to leave it as it was, that's all.
Line 3, where?
Line 3 on page 4, where it's red.
Oh, okay.
Leave that as it is and remove all of B on page 6.
Okay. Just making sure I understand. Now we're just discussing right now. Trustee Mason?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. The reason I was able to practically recite it is because we did this in December, January, February, March, April, July, and now in October. 7 times. If this had to go in front of the board to get something done, 7 times, the poor businesses. I knew it was 60% because we've said this so many times. Auditing has always been in place. I talked to Gina, I went in, I sat down, I've talked to you, I've talked to Joe. I talked to mostly everybody on this board. If we want to get things done in a timely manner, it's not always good to have more government, more hands on it. Sometimes things should align with the village manager and the village mayor. I think that if they're going to align and they're going to and not hold back the businesses, we can't all agree right now. So how do we get something pushed through? Where's the ease of doing business? That's what I thought we were for. If it goes through you, if you're going to be able to, or Joe is going to be able to assign a liquor license, you keep me abreast of what's transpiring. I talk to you regularly. I think it should mirror the liquor license. Thank you.
Trustee Stylen?
Well, I was originally going to vote no because it still has truck stops in there, but that's not the issue here. I actually like the auditing and reporting paragraph. I don't see why a business, especially as contentious as gaming, can't keep good records, and 21 days to me is very reasonable to ask to see books. And the reason why they might need to be audited is we just had one that didn't follow through on their menu. And so if that were to happen again, and there was a change, then they wouldn't be meeting their 60% food, which has been the policy since I think we instituted gaming in the village. So I would like to see this to remain in, and I think it just makes it more clear to agree with the liquor. And also, it says that the request for records would come from the village president or village manager. It's not just at anybody's whim. So I think that I would trust them to decide when an audit was needed. Thank you.
Trustee Reinders?
I have to agree. I actually think that I agree. I think we should leave the auditing, reporting in there. This is something that we've been doing, and anybody that comes to Homer Glen, we just can't have everybody coming up. Gina probably can tell you how many people come to this village because of the first thing is they want gaming. They don't read the ordinances about the 60% food. They think that they can come in here, open up a small business. Oh, we don't have to abide by any of the regulations, but we're going to get gaming. That's not the way things operate. We're a village, and we're a village of ordinances and rules, and our businesses, as a business owner myself, I have to follow. And I don't see the problem with somebody being audited. We have the public health department comes to us every 3 months. They take a look at every single thing in our restaurant. So why can't we have our village manager or our mayor saying that we need to go and audit these people? And even if we had to audit every single one in Homer Glen, then we create the ordinance to say we're not going to go after somebody for politics or for any other reason other than to make sure that you are following the rules. We all have rules. We all have to follow the rules on this dais. So I don't see why. And you know what? And to be honest with you, I am so sick and tired of all of the authority being taken away from the people in authority. And to me, this is just another ploy to take authority away from the people in authority. And that's my...
Thank you, Trustee Reinders. I do have to say, I partially agree with Trustee Fialko on a couple of things. What is the procedure if what if we do decide to audit somebody? Is it a lottery? Do we just pick a name out of a hat? Is it, yes, Gina?
Sorry, I just want to say, the reason I feel like the auditing especially was put in was because of the last incident.
Right.
So if the board has an issue with a business with gaming and they feel like I feel like that is something that would have to come from the board. If they feel that a business is not doing the 60/40, or if they come before the board with one menu and say, I want video gaming, and the board approves it, and then 3 to 4 months in, somebody from the board says, you know what, I don't feel like, they changed their menu, or they don't feel like they're performing the way that they should be, and it's more of like turning into a gaming cafe, then the board would have the right to say, you know what, I want this business audited. And that's the only reason why.
So is it a vote by the board? So the board would come together at some meeting and say, we want to
Right, and we could even put that in there if it wants to be more clear that it would have to be a board decision for a business to be audited.
Okay, so it would be a public vote?
Yes.
Where they say this specific business will be audited for these reasons?
I could swallow that a lot.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find the happy medium here. So if that works, so it's not, because I do understand politics is a big thing, and people can say this person donated to this person, then we want to pick on this person today or this person today. So there's got to be rhymes and reasons of why. So is that, we're going to go around one more time.
I'd like to make the amendment if I could.
I didn't get to...
Make a motion to amend.
I didn't get a chance to speak again.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, I didn't. Because the language there is extremely broad, no, there's no safety net whatsoever to protect any of the businesses from getting extorted like what I was complaining to about. And I heard from several business owners about this. So, yeah, extorted. What in that language that's there in section B on page 6 is there to protect a business owner from getting extorted? Just because Trustee Reinders just said, oh, well, I'm not going to do that, doesn't mean that there's nothing to stop you. There's nothing to stop the mayor. There's nothing to stop anybody, the village manager, from doing something inappropriate behind the scenes. There's no safety net whatsoever. So I'm standing behind the business owners that complained to me and brought this to my attention because, again, if it doesn't go before the IRS, if it doesn't go before the Illinois Gaming Commission, they don't do these kind of audits and reporting, right? And the Illinois Department of Revenue. If they're not requiring it of a business owner, why are we? And are other municipalities doing this? And what is, I think that, you know, Trustee Mason was complaining about government overreach. This is government overreach. This is hands in. This is bigger government. So why are we doing this? This hurts businesses. Business owners are the ones complaining about it. It doesn't affect me. And I've sat on here several times and said, I really don't want more gaming. Okay, I don't like it in restaurants. I have kids, I have a family, I want to go be able to enjoy a peaceful dinner with my family here in Homer Glen, and that doesn't really happen most of the time because everybody's in on it. So I'm not here to get anything or gain anything out of this. I'm saying it's hurting small business owners because that's what they're telling me.
Okay, Trustee Consolino.
So I want to see it stricken.
Right, okay.
That whole clause.
Okay, so what I'm trying to do again is I'm trying to understand what each one of you are saying. So you want the whole 60/40 removed. So what?
Not the 60/40. I want B. I want B on page 6. I want the audit and reporting to be removed.
Okay, hold on. I just thought a discussion would be good here, but apparently this is not working. But, well, okay, is there a second to motion to amend to strike the auditing? Is there a second on that?
I will second that.
Okay. Madam Clerk, call the roll to strike the auditing. Because I really want to get to the bottom of this and figure out something, because
Yeah.
Right?
this can't leave to this dais without it being resolved today.
7 more times.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
No.
Trustee Stylen.
No.
Trustee Mason.
No.
Okay. Motion fails, but this is, I'm trying to get to the bottom of this. I'm so sorry, audience, but Trustee Consolino, if we could just go back to what you were saying for just a second. If you don't like the auditing process, but you agree to the 60/40, what is to stop any restaurant that has gaming just to say, forget about it, they can't audit me, they can't touch me, they can't do anything, I'm just going to turn mine into a gaming parlor now? What's going to stop them?
Then provide for me specific language that is specific to that, not this
Specific to what?
broad audit and reporting, because I don't feel like the audit and reporting, you know, when you said, somebody was talking about it's not even going to be grandfathered, that people will not be grandfathered, that this will apply to everybody, correct? How is that fair?
But because this has been a thing. So when you get a license, a gaming license in the Village of Homer Glen, you sign off that you agree to have 60% food before over your gaming. So it's already been in the village since they allowed gaming. But if you don't want to strike the 60/40, you just want to strike the auditing, right? Is that what you were saying? Okay. So how do we enforce the 60/40 if we can't audit? And it's never been done before. We've never audited, correct?
I'm sorry.
Let me talk to Trustee Consolino, because I'm trying to figure this out. It's got to get done today.
What language is there that we can add in here right now and hammer it out then, that's going to protect the business owners, that you cannot just single them out of nowhere
I agree with you.
at any time, at any point? What's going to protect them, okay? I want exact language. This needs to be referred to the attorney then. And then I also want to know legally, if the IRS aren't doing it, the Illinois Gaming Commission's not doing it, and the Illinois Department of Revenue aren't doing this to the businesses, why do we have authority to do it?
Okay, Joe, you had your hand up. Did you have something you wanted to add about specific language?
I wanted to just look at page 1, the definition that includes the requirement for the 60% under the definition of restaurant.
Put a microphone on.
It is, I'm sorry. It says it shall be a requirement of this code that a restaurant continue to generate 60% of its revenue from food and beverage during the term of the video gaming license. This shall be subject to review under the audit provisions of this code. So it is my recommendation that annually, when they are out for their license requirement, that we audit each individual business to get their license renewal.
That's not a bad idea. Can the
That
board
would
agree to that?
give us the ability, or that would not give us the ability to go in at any time during the course of the year to do an audit, which is the concern of a few of the trustees, but we do that annually. We make that an annual practice that we go in and audit upon approval of their license every year annually, that we do an audit.
Okay, my question to you though is who is doing the auditing? Because to be honest with you, I don't think every business owner in town wants to know wants every trustee or mayor or staff to know their personal business.
I believe that I would have to talk to our finance director. I think that information's given through the state.
The state provides
and
it.
their percentage of what they're selling.
And I believe it was the clerk who got to review it along with the deputy clerk and the mayor.
Perfect.
And I don't have to audit, I'm good with that.
Correct. But upon approval of their annual license, we would do an audit to make sure that they're in.
I see Attorney Pasquinelli over here shaking his head. Do you have any?
So do I.
We all do.
I think we can amend it.
I'm going to go back to Trustee Consolino for a moment. Is that better language for you to be in it? We're getting there.
We're getting there.
Okay. I'm going to bring it back to Trustee Mason because he didn't have.
I think our village manager's creating solutions. Thank you, Joe. It wouldn't be all the businesses. It wouldn't be targeted businesses. It would be businesses that are up for renewal, and this is part of the commitment that they have when they're asking and seeking the gaming license to begin with. And it's already written in here, so yes, I think it should go, and I don't need to see it, but maybe our deputy clerk does, maybe our finance director does. I think it's a perfect solution.
Trustee Stylen?
Just a quick question. All of the licenses, are they like prorated so that the annual renewal is the same? Like the business licenses?
Yes, the audit done, yes, it's done at the same time. It's
Okay.
annual.
Yeah,
So that could be a lot all at once. And then the other question I have is, what if you do see that a business looks suspicious and doesn't seem to be operating in the up and up? I mean, maybe it could just come to the board, a request could come to the board first to authorize an audit during the year. If, you know, like you're only going to do this once a year, what if there is somebody that is not withholding?
That's just, we're going to go around again.
That's just
That's
a
a
question out
suggestion. Trustee Reinders?
I mean, we're all aware of what has been going on in town. The residents come to us and they tell us, hey, look, I've been to this place, they have no food. You know, so I mean, they're usually our eyes and ears. So I mean, if they bring that and we bring that to the attention to the clerk, then they could bring that to the attention of the board. I mean, but to completely stop auditing, that's something we've been doing. I think it's ridiculous.
But again, it would come to the board for a vote of auditing.
If they're not renewing, maybe.
I'm going to go, Trustee Fialco?
Yes, I don't believe that we've been, have we, I mean, can you ask?
No.
I guess,
That's
have
right.
we ever audited anybody? You said we didn't.
Not
Now,
that I'm
Will
aware
says
of.
We audit every year, but here, as far as I know, we haven't audited anybody, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
So the thing is, I think we're getting closer. And the whole idea is not to leave it so open that one business could be only subjected to this. I think Joe's idea is good. I think that outside of that annual thing that you're talking about for the audit, to see that the 6440 complies, I think that outside of that, if there was to be another audit requested outside the annual audit, that it should come to the board first, not to the village president or the village manager. It should come to the village board. We should make that decision and then move forward with it. That way, it doesn't ever appear as this board, whoever they may be, it's not going to probably be me. But the thing is, will never give the appearance that somebody's being harassed one way or another. And I think that language may help in the process.
So every year, the clerk receives information on every business on what they bring in annually. So it's not like a full-blown audit. It's not like, give me your books, I'm diving in. It's more or less that the state sends the village, the clerk, the breakdown. And then she could see, based off of the other breakdown that we get from the gaming, what the numbers look like, correct?
Correct.
So you can see that when they send it. So it's not a full-blown audit. And if one business is looking kind of sketch, right, it's kind of like, this numbers looks a little off, Gina can provide that to the board and say, this business is right here or wherever their numbers are. I think we need to ask for a deeper audit of them. And then it would be the board's decision on how to move forward. Does that seem to help a little bit more?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm going to go to Trustee Consolino because I want to make sure she's got a second time to speak.
I'm still uncomfortable with this.
Okay, Joe, did you have something?
I think we need to find what cause we may want to be in place for doing an audit other than the annual audit. And before it's brought to the board, what is that cause for us to consider somebody being audited? I mean, we're talking about an annual license here that maybe in the summer months, they're not selling as much food as they would later in the year. You know, the bars aren't, or restaurants aren't as crowded in the summertime as they are maybe during the other parts of the year. So I think we need to look at what cause there may be for an audit outside of the annual audit.
Okay.
Something to consider.
It shouldn't be done unless it's annually anyway, though, Joe.
I still like the idea of an annual audit of the businesses before.
I think the only...
Before we issue their annual.
Well, and I think if the only other time that it comes before us, if it's not on an annual, is if there's some anomaly that presents itself, which happened to us 4 months ago.
Right.
There was an anomaly, you didn't hold up your end of the bargain, you didn't follow the rules and the regulations and the ordinances that were in place, and you tried to pull a quick one, and then boom, you ended up in front of us. And that's why we're through this 7 different times, because we are trying to perfect it.
Attorney, do you have something to add?
I just want to, I just wanted to note something. In the code itself, section 83-53, inspection.
What page?
This is page 3. As written, and just notwithstanding what's coming before the trustees today, but as written, there is an inspection provision already written in this code, which allows, as a precondition for issuance of a video gaming license to the licensee, and thereafter, the village reserves the right to inspect the premises at any time for compliance with all provisions of this code. So for instance, how it's currently written, forget about the audit provision, but how it's currently written, if for whatever reason the village receives a call or a complaint from a citizen that ABC restaurant or ABC bar establishment has prepackaged food, is no longer selling food, the village has every right under this article to go into the premises within its hours of operation and inspect it to make sure that the provisions of this code are being followed. Okay, so you have an audit provision, which obviously we're hearing that there's deliberation on, which is the whole purpose of your government. Your government exists to hash out these ideas before you. But notwithstanding that audit procedure, the village, as it stands right now, has the ability to independently go into that premise and inspect it. And they can't refuse that inspection request because it's already written within this code. Now, there's always concern, well, are they going to be doing this arbitrarily and capriciously? Well, it has to be a reasonable inspection, okay? Implicit in governance, and implicit in ordinances like this, is that concept of reasonableness. It has to be a reasonable inspection. It cannot be arbitrary, and it cannot be capricious. That would fall outside of the gambit of the health, safety, and welfare provision and authority that the government has, and this government has.
Perfect.
So I just wanted to point that out. Lastly, there was a question in regards to the audit provision in section B. I'm familiar with this because I wrote it. And that provision, audit and reporting provision, at the time that I wrote this, or at the time that our firm, Peterson, Johnson, and Murray, incorporated this, this was solely to touch and concern change of membership and change of ownership. We heard a lot of concerns from this board, and we know from our experience that oftentimes businesses try to hide the fact of who truly is in control. And they tried to transfer assets and do an asset buy and all this other thing, all these other financial devices to transfer a license that is not transferable, okay, under the law. So what we did is that to guard against that, to protect the village against someone from transferring ownership and control and interests that exceed the benchmarks that the code requires you to be under, so to speak, we had an auditing and reporting provision written in there. And that provision says that you're required to produce requested books and records relating to the ownership and control of the premise license holder. So in the event someone believed that XYZ business actually is no longer in control by the manager that's there that has the actual license, it's been sold by way of asset transfer to a different entity, then the village would say, hey, produce your records and prove to us that the license holder still is the license holder under the law. That's the reason why it was written the way that it was. Certainly, the trustees don't want it. They can certainly vote against it, but that's the reason why it was. And those records would be related solely to the ownership and control. That's how it was written. It wouldn't be every record under the sun, because that would be nonsense. It's records relating to ownership and or control.
Okay, so as it still sits, right, oh,
Okay, then that's how it should be amended. That's the language that needs to be in there, that this is going to be, if there's questions about ownership or transfer, that language should be added in that clause on B.
and keeping the 60/40 auditing.
Yes.
So now you're adding more to it.
I want to add, where audit and reporting, okay, will only occur if there is a question of transfer, ownership, okay? Kind of just exactly how he said it. Would that make sense?
It does, but what I'm saying is that you're keeping the 60/40 audit, but now you're also adding what he just said, which was already a known matter, so.
If you go to page 5 at the bottom,
Any changes in partnerships, officers, directors, members, person holding directly or beneficially more than 5% of stock or ownership interest, managers or assistant managers of any premises possessing a village video gaming premise license under the article shall be reported in writing to the village president within 10 days of change, and such new personnel shall meet the requirements of that's something that's always been existent as well. I mean, that's always been in there. Go ahead, Mike.
And I'm sorry, and the concern is that what if they don't? The law says, the ordinance says that they're required to report this if they make these transfers. What if they don't? And what if, I think what we're hearing now is that the concern is if they try to hoodwink your government, okay, and have a shell business that's operating really under another entity that took control over it. That's when that provision for auditing and reporting as written would control. That's when the village, however the board wants it to be read, but that's when either the village board or the whomever entity this body gives the authority to require or reporting requirements from, then would require, hey, you got to produce all these materials and prove to us that you truly are the entity in control.
It actually says that in here. It says to produce requested books and records relating to ownership and or control
Yes.
of the video. So that's, Trustee Constantine, what you were asking to be added is actually in there.
And I want to refer per that section.
Which section? Oh,
For the change in personnel, ma'am? Okay.
Per
She wants to just
change in personnel,
To have it referred
per change
the
in
general
personnel.
there.
Or not personnel, I'm sorry, change in ownership, partnership, it should say, per any change in partnership, officers, directors, I feel more comfortable if that's repeated. Before, notwithstanding any other conditions.
I'm lost. Tell me where you want it exactly. Page what?
Any changes in partnership.
What page?
That's page 5.
I'm sorry,
page 5, she wants page 5.
Okay, where it says change in personnel. Okay,
To proceed, B1.
but B1 is on page 6. So
That's what
it
she-
does go before,
Right, that's what, Jen,
Right?
isn't that where you want
I
it?
want it repeated because in my opinion, the way this reads, the way it could be interpreted is we can still audit you for any reason. My God.
Trustee Castellino, what you're asking to be changed is on page 5. It spells it out right there on page 5, and then again on page 6, under audit and reporting. It says the same thing twice.
To me, okay, so that's A. B looks like a separate category. Okay? Like that it's not that,
It's explaining what change in personnel is under A, and then it's explaining what auditing is under B. So it's going to say it in there twice.
And it's all under 83-54.
It's all under the
here.
same section.
then here, I will be happy with per A1 prior to notwithstanding.
Okay, so are you making a motion to amend?
Motion to amend and add per A1 in section B of page 6, notwithstanding.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the amendment.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
No,
Trustee Mason.
No, it's already in there.
Trustee Stylen.
No.
Okay. So what we're looking at is the original ordinance that was brought before us, changes. And we discussed on having the words annually audited, which I explained the clerk, the deputy clerk already do because they get the information from the state. If there was one, and I don't know where the wording is or if we need to add the wording, if there is,
I'm sorry, ma'am.
go ahead.
No, I don't want to.
If there is one that looks a little off, Gina will bring it to the board, or Clerk Bilski will bring to the board to say, these numbers look a little off. Let's make a motion, or is there a motion to do a full audit, which is explained under audit? Now, during the year, say tomorrow, we get constant complaints, or there's an issue regarding a business not doing what it's supposed to be doing. The procedure is what, Mr. Baber? If I came to you and said, business A, B, and C is selling frozen pizza or ordering pizza from a restaurant, not serving food, what happens? You can inspect at any time, correct? So at any point, anybody can come to you and you can go and inspect anything. Just like if a tobacco shop we thought was selling THC or marijuana, you can go in and inspect. Just like if we thought a different business was doing something crazy, just like the health department can inspect any business at any time. Correct?
That's part of our business license, is that
Correct.
we can go in at any time.
Okay. I'm tired. Okay. So I'm going to go around one more time, just for final comments or anything changes, and then we're going to vote on this.
This is my turn.
Trustee Fialko?
Okay. Based on what our village manager said and what it says in B, I'd like to amend it to say the corporate authorities, when it's brought to our attention, the corporate authorities will make the decision to produce the records. To produce books, I would like to eliminate that, and just to basically produce the records relating to the ownership and control of the video gaming license. But it would not say the village president or village manager, it would say the corporate authorities.
Trustee Fialko, I believe you made that motion to amend already, and it was already voted down.
No.
Yep.
Yes, I believe it was.
No, it wasn't.
yeah, it was.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, it
did.
was, Dan.
Go ahead. Thank you.
The first one was to table, that failed. Then Trustee Consolino wanted to remove B on page 6. Trustee Fialko seconded, that failed.
Can you turn your mic on, please?
Sorry. The first one was to table.
Failed.
Then Trustee Consolino wanted to remove B on page 6. Trustee Fialko seconded it, that failed. Then, just recently, motion to amend, trustee Consolino wanted it to read per A1.
So there was no motion to change the corporate authorities.
Right.
On this particular section, ma'am.
In section B. Okay, trustee Fielko, are you looking to make a motion to amend it to say,
I am.
you want it to say corporate authorities instead of?
To remove the village president or village manager, it should go to the corporate authorities based on also the annual review of the business, or not the business, the gaming license. That was Joe's verbiage that he said thought would work out well. So however we can wordsmith that in there, that it would come before the corporate authorities when we are asking for, to audit a business, and to remove, request books. It should just say to produce the records relating to ownership and control. That would be my amendment.
Your amendment is not clear to me. Your amendment is, you said to remove village president and put corporate authorities back in under 2?
Well, there's two things, village president and/or the village manager.
Okay, so let's.
Now, this is only for this audit. This would be separate than the annual audit Joe was talking about.
Right.
This is secondary to that. So outside of the annual audit that the village manager was talking about, upon getting their new gaming license, we would take, and it would, for the secondary audit, I would call it, it has to come before the corporate authorities with the problem that's at hand, and we would make that decision, and then to produce the records retaining, not to produce requested books and records. Records covers it enough, I believe. That would be the amendment.
I'm going to have the attorney touch base on
Briefly,
that.
trustee Fielko, the phrase "books and records," that's a legal term of art that we use. Oftentimes, there's something called a corporate book. That's where minutes are kept. That's where resolutions in regards to transfers, that's where that's kept. That's the reason why I had that language in there. I'm not asking for like a literature book from them. It would just be corporate books and records related to the ownership and control would encompass ownership records, transfer records, things of that nature, and minutes related thereto.
But every year a business does their books, right? And they have taxes to pay. And in that process, they're going to have their numbers. So having all this...
That's not what he's referring to.
Just let trustee Fielko finish, please.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, finish, trustee Fielko.
I'm just saying that those numbers should be there already, that they should easily be able to give to us or to this village without being all the books and all this getting into the meat of a business.
Section B, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
On page 6, portion B, audit reporting, as it's written, does not relate to financial record, does not relate to
Where are you at?
accounting records like you're talking about.
I'm on page 6.
That provision relates to official corporate book and records that would relate to management and control, who is in control, who has the legal interest of that corporation LLC. That's how that's worded. It's not seeking like a accounting history ledger of like revenue and expense. It's solely limited to records, the corporate book and records, or the business book and records that relate to ownership and control.
Then I would like to make the amendment to just take out village president or village manager, include the corporate authorities under a second audit to the annual audit that Joe is talking about.
To the annual or the anomaly?
Okay, so.
No. Joe said earlier, do you mind if we have this conversation, President? Sorry.
The attorney's trying to catch me up because I'm so lost, but go ahead. I mean, I understand what's going on, but from what every year, like I stated before, we get records of finances, which is totally separate of what the attorney's talking about right now.
Correct.
So we can do an audit every year. When they turn in for their renewals, they give us paperwork to say who's on their license. That's what they're attesting to, on their renewal paperwork. And any time, the village can go in there and say, give this to me because we want to, just because for whatever reason, there might be a reason. I get it. I get that there's sides. I get that there's politics. I get that I don't like this business. This one's not my friend. This one, whatever, blah. I get it. But it's not like we're just going in there to pick on people. There's reasons we do things. If you're asking for an amendment to be put in there to remove village president so you can put the corporate authorities in.
That's all of us, right?
I understand who all of us is, but I also don't think it's right that everybody gets to see records and documentation of other people's businesses.
I didn't not say that, though. I just said that it would come before the corporate authorities for that second audit.
The second audit for when you're saying
The
middle of the
anomaly.
year, but at any time, Joe can walk into any business at any time for any reason.
He can inspect, but
He can
can't-
inspect.
Not the books.
Right.
It's just inspect.
Right, he could-
That's the difference.
Right.
Madam Mayor, may I?
Attorney, hold on, the attorney had something to say. I just want this to go to bed. We just gotta
Okay.
figure this out.
If I can suggest some language, I think what I'm hearing is that Trustee Fialco and Trustee Consolino would be fine with that provision in B that would relate to records, the production of books and records relating to ownership and or control, provided that the person requesting those records are the corporate authorities. Is that correct, sir? Ma'am? I think that that's what we have. Okay. And then secondly, we want to strike the provision that says this shall be subject, and for the definition of restaurant on page 1, that says this shall be subject to review under the provisions of this code. We want to strike that provision, and we want to add the following language. That it shall be a requirement of this code that a restaurant continue to generate 60% of its revenue from food and beverage during the term of the video gaming license, comma, and upon the business's application for its yearly license renewal shall provide satisfactory proof to the village finance director and or village manager, if you want to include the village manager in addition, and clerk, proof of compliance of the 60% of revenue from food prior to, as a condition of receiving its renewal. So there's an automatic audit per se that happens. They provide, when they go in for their business license renewal, they will provide satisfactory proof to the finance department through whatever records they have that they would give to the Department of Revenue anyway, showing what percentage of revenue and alcohol that they have provided there. And if that's satisfactory at that point, they get their renewal. And there it is. Make that as a condition of its yearly license renewal, that proof and that review from those groups. And then independent of that would be the corporate authorities approving or issuing a request for books and records relating to ownership and or control. In the event the corporate authorities, it gets brought before you all and you decide that that's what you need to do because obviously a complaint from a citizen or something. Okay.
You summed it up.
Okay.
That's fair.
Is that okay, ma'am? Is that what you?
As long as the board's good with that? So Trustee Fialco just made an amendment that the attorney just spelled out for us. Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Fialco.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Pass.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Styler.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Okay. Whatever that motion was, it carried.
So the amendment.
We'll call it Mike's
The
motion.
amendment carried
So
for
then-
the change, finally.
So then there would be a motion to approve the ordinance as.
Okay, now is there a motion to approve the ordinance as amended?
I'll make that motion. Okay.
Trustee Reinders.
Rose and I.
Trustee Fialco?
That's still
Yes,
this, ma'am.
okay. Is there an ordinance, a motion, you made the motion, Trustee Fialco second. Any more discussion?
Hope
Thank
not.
you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Fialco.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
No.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Now, that won't be coming back before us ever again. Okay. All right, number 6, consider for approval changing the Homer Festival Committee meeting from the first Wednesday of every month at 5:30 PM to the second Tuesday of every month at 6 PM. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it for,
Trustee Mason and Trustee Fialko, any discussion? No. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Motion carries. 7, consider for approval of the Village of Homer Glen suggested trick-or-treating hours, 2 PM to 7:30 PM on October 31st, 2024, or to adjust the time frame. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mason and Reinders. Trustee Mason, do you have any comments?
Nope, I'll be with my grandkids that day.
Trustee Reinders?
Nope.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Motion carries. Old business. Is there any old business? I have.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Director Westcott, myself, and Trustee Stylen, we took a, I guess, field trip, and we went and looked at that BP pipeline. We walked it from end to end. There is quite a bit of that space that's wide open, even on private land. We did notice there are probably 6 trees that are probably 300 years old that fall within the line. There are probably 12 trees, or a little over a dozen, maybe about 15. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Westcott, but I thought it was about 15 trees, Sue, that we came up with that were substantial. Otherwise, it is brush. It is wide open in a lot of spaces already. And I think if we negotiate with BP to minimize what they do in there, I think we're in good shape, actually.
I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Westcott real fast, because he wanted to touch base and talk about, give an update on the BP.
Yeah, absolutely. So just as an update with that, right, following up with our committee meeting and the workshop, the village is reaching out directly to BP, to direct representatives from BP, not other consultants and other people, to set up a meeting with village staff, board trustees, with the representatives from BP to negotiate the clearings within the village limits. So that's where we're at right now. Also, the goal is to get answers, and address the answers to the questions that our trustees and that the residents have as well at that meeting.
So BP will be meeting with us?
Correct.
Okay. Trustee Simon, do you have anything for old business? Old business?
I do have one, and it's regarding signs. It's election season, and I'm seeing them popping up all over the place, and just that we're enforcing it, and that maybe it's clear, because I'm seeing them in the right-of-ways, and they're not supposed to be in the right-of-ways. And then also, I just think we need to be looking at signs throughout the village. I'm just seeing violations all the time. That's it.
Okay. Trustee Reinders, do you have anything for old? Trustee Fialko, old?
Yes, we never got to the bottom of the sign ordinance issue. We were read the provision by the state statute by legal counsel. Based on 2 legal counsel's advice in the past, I think taking down political signs 30 days before an election, I know how the ordinance can be read one way or the other. I believe wasting finances of the village to have people chase signs the 30 days previous to an election is a waste of time. They should be required to be taken down afterwards, but I don't think we should spend the resources doing that with the 30 days before, like it used to be written, the village ordinance. In addition to that, the chair of Homerfest, we were going to have the lawyer review to make sure he was appointed, but he doesn't live in the village. So we asked legal to take a look at that, and I'm not sure that legal counsel had the time yet or not, but it's under our 10-7 under membership. It still does say that you're supposed to be a resident of the community. So what my point with that is, though, do we need to change the ordinance or not? And is he able to do this without violating, we're all talking about the village code, but yet with other things, there's been fluctuations in the way it's handled. So I just want to make sure that we take a look at that. BP pipeline, the 143rd workshop, again, that is on October 15th, right? From 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Young School, okay. That would be it under old business.
Okay, Trustee Cancelino, do you have anything for old business?
Yes, Madam President, could you ask Mr. Pasquinelli what his opinion is, again, to reiterate it about the sign ordinance? And then could you please ask Village Manager Baber where we're at on the status of shoring up our sign ordinance? Because we were supposed to be doing that.
Well, Mike's probably looking up the ordinance for the Homerfest chair. And so,
I can't find it here.
okay, Joe?
May I?
Joe, jump in real fast, yeah.
I'd like to talk to Mike about that. I reviewed the ordinance. I think it's pretty clear that the appointment of a staff member would supersede them being a resident. I read the section several times. I'm not a lawyer, but that's the way I interpret it, that the mayor has the authority to appoint a staff member to chair any committee. It doesn't really say that they have to be a resident, they're a staff member.
Okay, I agree with you, but just
I'll
to
get
put it to bed,
clarification
and
through
get the
there.
advice from the attorney once he gets a chance to review it. Can you please send Trustee Fialko and the rest of the board an email on your opinion on it? And then for signage, can you give us an update on the signage?
Yeah, I believe a month or so ago when I last spoke about this, basically Illinois law has preempted the ability, the Illinois State Legislature, through a passage of an Illinois law, state statute, has preempted the ability of this village and this body to restrict or pass any legislation restricting political signs on residential property, period. So even if you have an ordinance that says you can, or take them down, or put them up, or whatever, it's a nullity. Illinois law expressly passed a statute that says, other than reasonable restrictions as to the size of the sign, a home rule municipality cannot regulate the temporary political signs placed on private residential property, period. That's not something that this body can do.
Which we don't. Okay, wait, which we don't regulate signs on private property. Okay.
And that was the sphere that we were asked to look at, because there were previous ordinances and things of that nature that had restrictions, other restrictions that were placed upon it, and we shared our opinion, the opinion of our firm, that's been expressly preempted by Illinois state statute. It's not something that we can regulate or do.
Now, what about the right-of-ways?
In the village right-of-way, that would be the property of the village, and that can be regulated. That's village property that can be taken down, with the exception to, obviously, the actual election day, where we have folks that are, where the polling, the election actually takes place, where the actual voting takes place. Certainly, you cannot regulate the signs and such at that time in those locations. But as far as village property, that certainly can be regulated.
But you
It's
don't...
not preempted, well, put it this way, it's not preempted by that state law statute that says this body cannot regulate in residential signs.
So when our code enforcement is out removing signs from the sidewalk to the curb, that's village right-of-way.
But, and Madam Mayor, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, I'm asking you a question.
The question becomes, where is the right-of-way? And I don't know. The right-of-way, the village right-of-way, and Mr. Westcott can certainly talk about this too, but it changes based from subdivision to subdivision. Some places might be 15 feet from the curb to the sidewalk, some might be 10. It all depends upon how that particular area was platted. So you have to be careful when village enforcement officers are removing signs, because what is right-of-way in one instance may not be right-of-way in another instance. And you don't want to be in a position of removing anybody's sign or property within their residential property. That would not be something that anybody would recommend.
But we know for sure that the opposite side of the sidewalk leading towards the street is the right-of-way.
I would
I
not.
see him already on
wouldn't assume,
159th. I
but-
see him already on 159th, sitting in that little patch of green before the sidewalk.
That would be some, I'm,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, no, I don't want to trouble you, sir. That's,
Just, Trustee Steinman?
Yeah, and I would just like to add, because I know that you can't discriminate based on speech. And what I saw in my subdivision today is there's like an air rating and seating sign that's on each corner. You know, one at 151st, one at my street, I saw one in Pebble Creek, and that's just one example. There's a lot of other signs, and so if we leave the political signs in the right-of-way, then all of these other signs are in the right-of-ways now too. So because they can do it, because we can't enforce that, because if you can put this candidate's sign here, I can put my air rating sign here. So, or whatever. So that is part of the problem that I'm trying to bring up. Thank you.
So basically what our ordinance says is no signs in the village right-of-ways, which our code enforcement knows where our right-of-ways are. I'm going to go to Trustee Consolino first.
Madam President, could you please have Mr. Pasquinelli reiterate his advice on how we should be addressing removing these signs? If you're unsure of what that plat is.
exactly. Yeah, and I think that's what.
Thank you.
Yes,
I just want it clarified on the board because it still seems like it's fuzzy.
You don't want to guess where the village right-of-way is what I'm getting at. We want to make sure that if it is, we want to make sure that any sign that's being removed by village staff at the direction of this village, it truly is on village property. So what a recommendation would certainly be is that you double check your plats, make sure that indeed that's in the village right-of-way, take a picture of it so that we have it documented that indeed this is on village property, and then it's removed if that's what the ordinance requires.
Joe, did you have something?
Yeah. This is a difficult challenge for my staff to enforce this because what has been brought up here is determining what is a right-of-way. We have a lot of subdivisions that don't have sidewalks.
You speak up, Joe.
I'm sorry. We have a lot of subdivisions that don't have sidewalks, that it's very difficult to define where that right-of-way is. Typically, we go with utility poles, things like that, that pretty much are in the right-of-way. They're not on private property. When we do remove signs, my staff's been advised to take pictures of when they're doing that so that it can justify the fact that they truly are in the right-of-way and where they're being removed from. It's difficult because social media and people out there, you know, taking pictures of my staff removing certain candidate signs and not others, and then they're on social media and there's accusations being made. It's a very difficult thing for my staff to do. They take it personal when they're getting slammed on social media, and we're doing the best we can. I mean, I think people, when they put these signs in, they need to direct the people that putting these signs in to be on the safe side. Put it on private property, keep it out of the right-of-way, keep it out of the questionable right-of-way. I see them all over now with the advertisement signs for aeration or roofs or whatever. Those are easy. We pull those out. They can't have those out at there anyway. That's just my comments. That's all. And we're not favoritizing any particular candidates for sure. I just want to make that point also.
Okay, does that put the sign thing to rest? Trustee Reinders?
Just to reiterate, Joe, though, we do keep the signs. We bring the signs back here, and then if somebody wants to
The
pick up their
candidates
signs,
are
they can pick up
notified
their
that they're
signs.
here and they can pick them up right outside our special event, or our events door.
Right.
Yep.
Those are taken and they're timestamped too, so.
I still think that we should be shoring up that ordinance. And I thought that was discussed all the way back in February, March,
I thought it was clear.
and then it's been in limbo.
Man. The confusion comes into the village right-of-way and the utility easements are not always the same either. That adds another element of confusion. That's why I believe for us not to, unless it's blocking the vision of the traffic like has been done before, based on lawyers' recommendations, the 30 days before an election, elections are always going to be, right? We're never going to be able to stop people from putting up signs, and we can have people run all day and all night taking signs down. If that's the way we want to spend our resources, I don't think that we should. I really think in the long run, somewhere along the line, we ought to have a 30-day moratorium like there used to be built into the code, where you could put up political signs 30 days before the election, and then they had to be down 5 days after the election. That used to be written into the code at one time. So I think for Joe having that, like he said, it's very difficult for him and his staff. I think it's best just to, if it's blocking the traffic and it's getting in the vision of traffic, and that could be the discretion of Joe and the code enforcement to take those down, but other political signs, you're just going to keep chasing your tail. And I don't think it's worth spending the money.
So Trustee Fialko, just for clarification, you think for 30 days before an election, the right-of-way should be free game to whoever chooses to put a political sign out there? So if I wanted to put a sign in your front yard, Christina for mayor, you'd be okay with that?
No, I think you're adding a little twist to it there.
But I'm saying, who's going to say what sign goes? If I wanted to put one in front of every single person's front yard, who's going to, then if we're waiving
what I'm
that?
talking about is just the not using my sign, your sign, none of that. Just in general for elections, there's elections every year, sometimes twice in a year. So the thing is, instead of spending the resources on the dollars or spending all the taxpayer money on chasing signs all day long when somebody's making a decent salary that could be doing other things, I just think we're chasing our tail. Elections are always going to be, and it's easy to say, go take them down, but then you're spending all that money and time and resources that somebody could be doing something else. But having that moratorium, and the thing is, that would still be discretionary. I mean, if it's in the way of the traffic or if it's somewhere where it absolutely shouldn't be, yeah, those could be taken down. But to waste the resources on every sign that's in the wrong exact, and then measuring, I mean, there were people out there with measuring tapes, I heard. So doing all that is just a waste of taxpayer dollars to me. So, I mean, for this election and just saying, hey, at your discretion, Joe, in enforcement, yeah, okay, if it's blocking traffic. Outside of that, until we get an ordinance shored up, which we've asked for and which we'll be working on, I think we just ought to take the previous lawyer's advice and this law firm's advice and just...
We actually have an ordinance, it's 880-220.
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, and it states everything that you just said.
Wait, I have
Which one are you talking about?
I have to 100% disagree with you, Trustee Fialko.
Okay.
Because if you
Outside,
think
right away.
it's more important to allow politicians and elected officials to put their campaign signs out for 30 days and run wild than it is for a business to promote themselves to make a living,
Never said that.
I disagree with you. Well, you're talking political signs and right-of-ways as follow the village. I'm speaking, I let you speak. If you are going to tell me that little mom and pop shop or Taza or Ruby Agave or wherever else can't just go and put signs wherever to help their business if they're struggling, but you think a politician should be able to put their sign wherever they want for 30 days, I completely disagree. In fact, I think our ordinance should be stricter on politicians putting their signs wherever they want. If they are not proud enough to put it in someone's front yard, up by their front door, wherever it may be, and not in the right of way, then they shouldn't have their signs out and they shouldn't be running for election in the first place. You want to vote, you want to put your sign somewhere, you earn it. Period.
It had nothing to do with business.
Shouldn't be a free-for-all.
It went back to the state statute, which the lawyer referenced, not what you're talking about businesses.
Okay, well-
And I support businesses 100%. That was a bad path
I
to go
guarantee
down.
30 days before an election, there will be a different sign in your front yard that somebody doesn't care about, and you'll be the first one crying about it.
Wrong.
So, may I say something,
Yeah.
Madam Mayor? I just want to clarify so there's no confusion. Illinois law as it stands, 65 ILCS 511-13-1, would prohibit this village from putting a moratorium on the ability for a resident on residential property to put a campaign sign on their property. You cannot have that. The law clearly says, other than reasonable restrictions as to size, you can put size restrictions on the sign, but that's it. So other than reasonable restrictions as to size, No home rule or non-home rule municipality may prohibit the display of outdoor political campaign signs on residential property during any period of time. The regulation of these signs being a power and function of the state, and therefore this item 12 is a denial and limitation of home rule powers and functions under subsection 1 of the Illinois Constitution. So you cannot do that. You cannot pass legislation here, and all these trustees, they may want to, and they may have legitimate reasons to do so. It's our recommendation, as the Office of the Village Attorney, to say, no, do not do that, and you cannot enforce that. If the village sign ordinance says that there's a moratorium on placing political signage on residential property 30 days before or 30 days after, you should not enforce that, okay? Because that's within a sole province within the state to regulate it, and they clearly say we do not have any authority to regulate it. That's our opinion.
That's not what we're talking about.
We're
talking about right-of-ways, not residential property.
Residential, you could put a sign up.
We've heard this over and over again.
Yeah.
But the right-of-way is something totally
I
different.
promise not to remove Dan's sign.
If it's not clear to me, and I just wanted to make it very clear that you cannot put a restriction on political signage on residential.
That's not what he's asking.
Private property, right.
That's not what he's asking. He's asking to put a moratorium to allow political signs on the right-of-ways in the village.
Okay, that's not what I apologize.
Correct?
That's
Is
not
that
what I
correct?
heard.
Is that what you're asking?
No,
Then what are you asking?
nothing. I'm done with that conversation. 'Cause you-
Are we going to bring it up again in 30
Steered into
days?
Something else that it isn't. It's okay.
No, that's literally
However
what
Joe
you were
wants to handle it,
asking.
Joe will handle it.
Move on.
Okay, so no political signs on right-of-ways. And if there are, remove them, as long as they're within our property. Okay? Get your measuring tape out, whatever we have to do. Yes.
One of the ideas I had was using the Will County GIS as a guide because they do show property lines. So with each one that we take out of the right-of-way, I am also going to attach the Will County GIS, which shows the property line and where the right-of-way is as a reference tool. And that's what I'm going to recommend, and that's what I'm going to put on our website, that if they want to put things, or if there's a questionable location in regards to a right-of-way, please refer to the Will County GIS site, which is free to all people, as to where that right-of-way is.
Okay. All right, moving on. Any other old business? Any new business?
I had one on the
Okay.
old business.
One
Or
more on
new business, I'm sorry.
New, old, same, go ahead.
I just want to make sure that we get John Sawyer here to do that annual report. If you can tell, is he going to be back in town? I don't know.
He's in
At the
town.
next meeting. Will it be end of October or beginning of November?
I will have John at the next village board meeting.
Yeah, whatever works out best for him, that'd be great.
Yep.
That'd be it for me.
Joe, can you give an update on Kettler? What happened this morning?
That was Tuesday morning, Kettler.
Oh, yeah.
We attended.
Guess I slept for 20 hours.
The commission meeting down at Will County, and it was a 7-0 vote against the rezoning request by the Kettlers over there on 159th Street. I did speak about the ongoing property maintenance violations, which I think was a factor over there. There was a lot of discussion revolving around that. Some of the residents were out and presented pictures and things like that. So I think it was pretty effective.
Nice, thank you. Just wanted to give the board an update on that. And then there was some questions on trunk or treating. This is just kind of a new thing. We don't allow political affiliations doing trunk or treats, correct? Because it's in our village ordinance that we don't allow politicking on our property. So I just wanted to...
We've never had anything political at Trunk or
No,
Treat.
I was just asked because I was approached by different political things, and they wanted to know if they could do something in that nature. I didn't have a solid answer because I know what our ordinance says, but I didn't know where we were going to go with that, so the answer is no. So if anybody asks, the answer is no, from what I understand.
Yeah, I've done Trunk or Treat every year, and it's for the past 3-4 years, and there's never been anything political.
Okay, just making that clear. No workshop tonight. Is there a motion to go into executive session, discussion regarding pending litigation?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Reiner, trustee Fialko, all in favor? Aye.
All right,
Opposed?
5-minute break.
All right, 5-minute break.
Thank you, everyone.